Hello, everybody. It's Dave Neal, stand-up comic, host of the Rush Hour podcast. I am so excited to talk to today's guest, a trauma-informed therapist who has been covering the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni drama on her YouTube channel. It's Dr. Amin Kaur. How are you?
Hey, you did so well with my name. Thank
Oh,
you.
thank you. And I'm loving your pleasant British accent. So tell us where you're coming from right now.
So I'm just above the London in the UK. So yeah, I am from the UK.
Yeah, and it just makes you sound smarter just on the accent alone, and then you bring in your psychology, and it really I think us Americans here, we've been in this pit, right? We've been in this pig pen of entertainment gossip, and then you come in, using smart terms, and we're like, let's listen to her. She has something good to say.
Please don't. You're going to get me a big head before I even start.
Well, how did you decide? Why did you decide to cover the Blake Lively, Justin Baldoni case? Like, walk me through how you got involved with this.
So look, I specialize in helping people who have been in toxic relationships recover, who it feels extreme trauma. So all my clients were so excited by this film. They literally were desperate. Even if they had to go out by themselves, they wanted to watch this film. It was a big thing because so many clients, they want to feel like they're seen, they're heard, they're understood out of all this craziness. Like, we're covering this story, and isn't it just crazy? Every day you're hearing more and more things and you're trying to put it all together. But this is what people are actually experiencing on a day-to-day level. So to know that there's a film out there that can put it some words to it, or they feel like they're seen and heard, it just made all the difference. And the film itself was okay, but actually this drama is actually exposing more of what people actually go through when they're being in these type of relationships. That's why it got me excited, or I wanted to help people understand what's really going on behind
Yeah,
the
and I think the movie did such a good job of really building up Justin Baldoni's character and showing that love, and then showing his own toxicity and his own sort of reacting to his heart being hurt, as jealousy kind of came in between. And the thing I want to talk about is where do you stand? And I know it's tough because we're just watching it all play out and you're not having these personal relationships, but where do you stand with who you think is sort of like at fault here with all of this?
Yeah, it's really, really hard to know. Okay, I'm just going to put that out there. And I know not people are not going to be happy with me by saying this, is that we can't take things out of context because we still don't know everything yet. And I know that Blake Lively has subpoenaed to get all the text messages and all the receipts. So we've got a whole, I mean, it looks like Justin Baldoni is the true victim in this scenario from what we've seen so far. But let's just keep an open mind because we don't know for sure and we haven't gone through the case and there'll be more coming out. So, yeah, I hope that answers your question.
Well, everything we see, right? We bring our own experience, and for me, I look at this scenario as just like from the non-expert. I see Blake Lively as someone who's like desperately wanting some control in her life, and Justin Baldoni's basically telling her, like, he's giving her what he can, but in the end, she's not the director, producer, she's not the wardrobe person. So it feels to me as though there might have been that sort of bomb explosion when she felt like she wasn't being respected. Like, could you see that sort of world playing out?
Yeah, and what we're seeing from especially the Exhibit A, it's like so easy to see how you're going through love bombing to devaluation to discard, which happens in these type of power and control type relationships, and it's happening over and over again, which is exactly what happens in a real life relationship. So it's incredible to actually go through the Exhibit A and see that being played out. And then all these other things are coming out. Like, I used to, the Forbes interview. I mean, that was incredible. Like she just basically said, I go into a role and then I say I'm going to be an actor, and then I want to do other things, and I want to have control and power over everything. So we're seeing this repeating pattern in so many different places, from the exhibit A, from some of the other things that people are bringing to our attention, and it's incredible. It's the same type of pattern over and over again, and that's what matters, is actually looking for the patterns over and over again to see, is there a power and control thing going on here? And it looks like there is.
One time on a movie set, I was doing a job called stand-in work, which is you just stand there and it's low paying. And I was standing next to a scene where they were doing a stunt, and I remember telling the stunt guy, "Hey, I do stunts too." And I lied. I had never done a stunt before, and I talked my way into becoming a stunt performer, but I never accused anyone of sexual harassment in order for that to happen. I just bet on myself that if they started throwing bowling balls at me in the stunt that we had to do, that I would be okay. So like I actually put my own body on the line to talk my way into a better position. And it seems the big problem here is like, look, go into a movie and then like offer whatever help you can. But when you're told no, don't do anything that would be collateral damage to others, if in fact that's what she did.
Yes, so that's totally different what you're describing. Okay. So, for instance, you're saying I was in a role and you were accepting that you're going to be in that role. You saw some stunt happening and you were like, oh, I can do something like that. And you were given an opportunity to try it. Yes?
Yes.
Which is
And
totally,
by the way, it wasn't a stunt that would have harmed anybody else. It
yes,
wasn't like
exactly.
I'm driving someone off of a cliff, they're burning on fire. So there was no collateral damage other than maybe I was not going to be good at it.
Yes,
But
yes.
yeah, but
So the
it didn't
only
involve.
user would have been you,
Right.
potentially, yeah? Not anybody else. And you were willing to put yourself in that position, which is totally, totally different from what she's saying, which is,
Right.
I go into a role and I just have to look pretty or something along those lines, and stand on a sticker, I think it was a pink sticker, and be an actor, just be an actor. I don't know. But Dave, where I'm sitting, to be an actor and be brilliant as an actor is incredible. You know,
Well, I can understand her point in that there are certain days where you're only reading a couple lines. It's not the high value day, and I can imagine the longer you do it, the dopamine you get from it goes away. It's like, all right, you get free food at lunch. At a certain point, the extra money, it's like you get used to it. So I'm thinking the value that she sees, like with Taylor Swift and Ryan Reynolds, really commanding and orchestrating. Like she's playing the oboe and wants to be the conductor, but it's like you don't get to do that. You got to write the ballad that you can then conduct, or get yourself your own orchestra. Like she wanted something in a world that wasn't designed to give it to her.
so what you're talking about is that you master that one role. And when you get bored, like you did that role, you mastered it. And when you knew you'd achieved that, you asked for the next role or the next opportunity. And that's what she hasn't potentially. Look, I'm not an expert as an actor or anything, but it's mastering that first before you go to that next level,
Yeah.
before you can get bored of that. And that means you graft, you get to know each thing properly. And then you don't get that dopamine hit anymore because you've mastered it. Because we're born to evolve, to
Yeah. And so, yeah,
grow.
so like what's going on in the brain once you've learned how to do something? It no longer, like for me with stand-up comedy, once you've mastered the specific joke, you no longer get you don't get the reward when the whole audience erupts in laughter, because that reward came in the writing process and figuring it all out. That's why comics will like get bored with their material even if it's killing. It's like and by the way, I know a lot of people don't like analyzing Blake because they think it's making excuses for her. But
Yeah.
could you back me up here? Like what's the benefit of analyzing someone who may have done something pretty bad?
So it's about validating that it's not you. Yeah. Because a lot of people want to analyze Blake so that because they know someone similar in their own life. And we've got to be honest, we've all come across people that want to have power and control over us. be it a boss, be it in a relationship, be wherever, maybe even growing up. So, what they're trying to do is analyze and get some validation for their own experiences to some degree, so that then they can know it wasn't them and then be able to move on from it. And the brain basically does that. So, there's a part of the brain that analyzes. Yeah, it's called the planner. So, say if you've had some traumatic experience, it's very common to go into rumination where you just go round and round and you analyze and you want to understand. But the real problem is that we need self-awareness, which is a different part of the brain, to be able to feel what's in the trauma part of the brain, which is called the amygdala. I call it Amy for short. So she's carrying all this stuff and the pain. And, physical pain and emotional pain is the same for the brain, right? Just
Right.
because you can't see it, it still hurts. And you can't move forward in your life because you're scared. Oh my gosh, I don't want to get hurt like that. So what your brain's trying to do is, I'm going to protect you. Because it's amazing. Your brain is absolutely amazing. So it's just trying to protect you so you don't feel that ever again. So we're over analyzing Blake so that we don't experience that kind of person in our own life
Do you
again.
think she's do you think it was possible that she was experiencing this lack of worth, lack of control, and then the movie goes on pause during the writer's strike? Do you think it's possible she's ruminating during that period and kind of making it a bigger offensive situation to the point where I won't come back unless you agree to all of these different terms? Like, is there a scenario where you can not defend her, but see where she was coming from, even if it is toxic?
So in toxic people, what they do is they have all these emotions. So say if they're having a bad day or they feel like, oh, I'm overweight, yeah, and I don't want to do this scene, people aren't going to like me, and all this stuff is going on in your head. You can make a little, you know, molehill into a mountain. It gets built up so bad to the point that you then throw all your emotional baggage on other people. So the problem with toxic individuals is they don't have the ability to self-regulate their own emotions. Yeah. So what they do is they collect them and then they go, here, bang. Yeah. I want you to feel bad about yourself. It's like that. And they will do things or say things and maybe even create something to get rid of that feeling. Yeah. So I don't know. We don't know, but we can assume that maybe she's slightly exaggerated some of those SH accusations, and that's why maybe we're not seeing anything that backs that up yet.
When you look at the dancing scene, it
Yeah.
was so interesting to me how she tried to tell him where to stand lighting wise. Because, like, look, you could make the argument she wants to get into wardrobe because she loves fashion. She wants to direct because she loves collaboration. But does she want to be a cinematographer too? Like, and in that moment, it read to me like she thinks I'm way more experienced. I'm
Mm.
making 10 times as much money as anybody else is on this movie, in some cases, hundreds of times more than the crew. And I know what I'm talking about. He says, no, it's okay. And he kind of stays in character. And then she feels like everything else was creepy after that because she was told no. Like, what's going on
Yeah.
possibly if she's told no in that moment? Is that like triggering the rage? Is it like bringing you back to the first time your dad told you no, or you know what I mean? Like what's that science behind all that?
So what? So she does come across like she wants to be in control at that point, and then if someone says no to her, it can be like, I'm not good enough, or that has triggered, or I am wrong. So, for someone that struggles with being wrong, I am perfect, I am amazing, yeah, and I have to create the illusion that I am perfect in every way, then that triggers that. So, then they will feel like they need to attack the person back to devalue them so that they are back. So it's like a seesaw. That's the best way I can describe it. So they need to be top all the time. I'm better than everybody else to get the validation for themselves. They're just looking for validation from outside. I'm the best. I'm the best. So they're putting you down so they can feel better. So then as soon as you've done that and you've been put back in your place, it's like, well, that's not okay. I've got to somehow devalue you and attack you so I'm back up here. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and look, I'm no expert on how someone might feel after giving birth, but we have
Yeah.
a 9 month old. I can hear him in the other room making some noise right now. And I know that I was so protective of my wife that we sort of kind of tried to create an environment that had very little external influences because we knew that there'd be a lot of recovery physically, emotionally, just the whole body as we bring a baby into our life and things are different. And here you have Blake, her husband's working, living his dreams, making a fortune. Everything he does turns into gold. And
Yeah.
then she just had her fourth kid. So she's only a few months past having a kid. She's got to be in scenes where she's partially nude, romance scenes, DV scenes. I'm not saying this to give her grace, but it seems as though whatever issues you could have emotionally would be lit on fire when
Yes.
you're also going through the crazy response of having your third or fourth child.
Yeah, because you've got to think emotionally and hormonally, she's going through massive changes as well. And then she's also going to have all these concerns about her body, which I think she expressed as well. So that is understandable. But it doesn't excuse, potentially wanting power and control over people. But if you are someone that is feeling more emotional, you're more likely to need that power and control to feel better within yourself. So she could have maybe done more extreme behaviors to get that
Yeah,
because she
I
was
mean, look,
vulnerable. Sorry.
on no, no,
Yeah.
no, no. On like a personal level, I've learned in my life what gives me anxiety before a show. I'll get there early and I want to control every aspect that I can control. I used to open up for this comedian who was so adamant that the temperature was the perfect level where people were sitting in the audience. And it's because you have no control over how the show's going to go because
Yeah.
anything can happen. So
Yeah.
you want to just control everything else. So it's not me making excuses for Blake. It's me just saying, man, it seems as though a personality type like hers,
Yeah.
accompanied by whatever the stress and trauma would exist of being on a film set. It just seems like this is the type of situation that I guess in hindsight, I see how this all kind of combusted. And it's not me making excuses for
Yeah.
her.
I get
You
that.
just have to look at Hollywood attracts like kind of some of the craziest of people in the first place. And.
Yeah, I think that's fair that she would have been feeling more vulnerable than normal. But again, we're just assuming. But also, sometimes, it's in those situations we can really see a person as well. Because actually, in a lot of things that Justin Baldoni talks about being vulnerable, I think it's the only way we connect as human beings. When we can really be our authentic and real self. And, we're pushing ourselves in these scenarios to be able to connect with other human beings. But some people just can't do that. They lash out, which is a shame.
Yeah, and of course, this seems like that scenario where a really good apology, like I've mapped this out so many times, and again, people say, "Oh, Dave, you're letting her off the hook," and I'm saying, no, I'm seeing as a way out. She could
Yeah,
own up to all of this, just say the incredible forces of the judgment of the audience with the pressures of motherhood. Like I think that's the angle she could take if she wants to get out of this. But it also seems like she might have the personality type that it's hard to maybe admit that you did any wrong?
yeah, because we're seeing that over and over again. Is like even when someone brings up something, her first response or her legal team's first response is it's Darvo, is you're attacking me, you're retaliating. So it appears that even the smallest thing could feel like an attack for her. But that's not, we can't live like that, can we? Like, because everybody else is getting hurt. by that kind of behavior where you're getting, that poor guy then, right? If he has been falsely accused, I mean, it's just awful what his family has had to go through, what he's had to go through, what his company and other people have had to go through, because there's this feeling of vulnerability that she's had to experience. It's awful when you think about it that way. Yes, it's understandable. At the end of the day, anyone that does anything like this, if it is a personality disorder, it's a protective measure. It's a way of protecting yourself from feeling pain. But it's causing other people pain as well. And we need to recognize that are both. Yeah.
Yeah, no, and I'm totally, because I mean, trust me, it's so crazy to think that if Justin was just like, from every text we've seen from him, just tried to do his best, wanted to give all the, like, people have a hard time believing someone could just be a good guy. And as we've looked into his religion and the way he interacts with other men and women, it all kind of lines up as the same. Like, well, maybe this guy really is like just a really good guy, and he was like a mark, or maybe it was easy for her to focus her anger at him because she couldn't attack the internet and the audience that was there. And then, of course, accompanied by the deep pockets that they have to fight this, it could, like they always say, oh, this will settle. There's no way it's going to go to court. But I guess she might be the personality type that's, refusing to let this go or admit any sort of wrongdoing.
Do you reckon it's too late now to let this go? I think they just left it a bit too late. I don't know what they're going to do moving forward. Unless they have something, Dave.
And they don't, but yeah, maybe through the text messages they find something. But at this point, it's not just like them letting it go. It's the damage that was done to Justin and to the other PR companies. And it's like, well, it's going to have to involve some sort of apology and ownership of, like, it was your own sort of like evil demons that created this story. And, I just think if she could apologize for misinterpreting his grace for all these other things, that there's a way that she could do it, that she won't be saving grace, but she could bow out for a couple of years, come back with a rock solid. People that want to hate her go, oh, she's not attractive, she's a terrible actor, and it's like, well, calm down. Like, she's pretty good at what she does. Like, I watched the movie, I thought it was good. It was convincing to me, having seen all of the behind the scenes. So I think the movie was what it was going to be. Not for everybody, but powerful for some. But what's interesting to me, and maybe you could let me know, like with you and your client list, do you have mainly women that are seeking help through like recovering from their trauma? And is this such a hotbed story because it feels like Blake might have weaponized that instant feeling where you want to believe women?
Yeah, I mean, most of my clients are female. They are women, and they really do resonate with that. How the film itself. But what's happened is that Justin Baldoni in real life, or this story, is showing that it's the other way around, and it has been his goodness, if you like, has been weaponized. And actually, in reality, what happens is that you are falsely accused of things that you haven't done, because they do smear campaigns on you before you can do them on them on purpose. Because what they want to do is to put you in such a position where you're isolated that no one's going to believe you when you do speak out. So they prep everything beforehand. What's happened after the film is more telling, like it's telling the story of what's actually happening to victims, where they are isolated, that there's smear campaigns against them, and they're the ones that have been victimized. Yeah.
I'm sorry. So for Blake, when she is re-entering this film project after the break and presents them, sort of bamboozles them with this 17-point demand list, is that the instance where she's dividing them, where she's trying to curry favor with Sony, the distributors, and maybe also Colleen Hoover, the cast,
Yes.
in sort of dividing this wedge between him, Justin Baldoni, as the power figure,
Yes.
and yeah, so like that would be the, I guess, the first like super clear instance where she's on the attack.
Yes. So what they do is they make you feel shame and guilt for who you are. Yeah. So they can have more control over you. So if you feel like, so for instance, if you feel shame and guilt, I have more ways of controlling you and having power over you, because that way I can shut off your critical thinking part of the brain and you will be under my control more. So it's,
And yeah, what's interesting with that is, as we see the text messages, Justin is privately talking to the PR people, to the producers, and they're almost helping him out because it seems as though he's willing to give Blake anything to get her back on set, to make her feel good. And they're like, no, we can't sign off on this. We can't do that. So it's almost like Justin, in his kindness, could be a mark, as a sucker to whatever she's trying to pull. And then luckily, there's enough, like if this was in a private life, you wouldn't have producers chiming in and investors. If this was just a private life, you wouldn't have any of the receipts of any of this. You would just be seen as like this bad guy who is
yes,
abusive, really.
yes. So that in real life, people might say things about you and the other people will just believe it. Because what happens is the person that is pretending to be the victim is so much better at pretending to be the victim than the victim itself. Yeah. So what happens is with trauma is you just shut down. So remember in the exhibit A, he says, I'm ready to give up. Just let her have whatever. So that's when you go into shutdown mode, which is part of the nervous system. It actually impacts you where you do genuinely just go into shutdown and you have no control over that. So because you are, no matter what you do, you're being accused of things that aren't true. And he needs to just get his film done, right? So he's thinking, well, how do I solve this scenario? Because when we're in toxic relationships is exactly like gambling. You know, imagine like you're just at the slot machine, you're investing time, money into this person. Every now and again you get a little bit back, but you keep going because you're just trying to get the jackpot. He's trying to get his film.
Yeah.
So he's
Yeah.
invested all this time, money, and she has no contract. She's got no boundaries. There's no way to hold her in. I mean, it's smart from that perspective in terms of if you've got a game plan right at the beginning. And it sounds like she doesn't like boundaries, you know, hence why the Forbes, you know, she doesn't have a boundary then if she's trying to do all these other roles as well. You know, wants to be free to be able to do whatever. And that again is very typical of someone that's got toxic traits.
Yeah, in these toxic traits, if she was like, I don't know, working a normal job, the job itself would probably set boundaries to keep
Yeah,
her from doing what she's doing. It's almost like a wildfire. As an A-lister, the agents, everyone's making money off of her, so like she's able to run wild. She ran wild on Gossip Girl. Everyone's got plenty of testimony before she ever had kids and all of these things where she was kind of just like, and then again, I worked on Gossip where we all saw it. She looked miserable, but you write it off and you go, well, as long as she stands on that dotted line and says what she's supposed to say, we'll put up with her. And
yeah,
now she feels like, well, I want more than the dotted line. And I guess the response from the industry is, well, but like no one else wants more of you. Like that's all we can tolerate. So yeah, it's fascinating. Where do you think this goes? Like, what's your, if you, I know it's a tough thing to predict, but what do you think happens?
I really don't know, Dave. I'm just seeing it unravel. I think if I was to guess, and I'm just guessing here, I don't think she's going to have the evidence to back up her SH claims, because some of the things that she's accused people of in the past for SH doesn't appear to be SH. So I don't think she's going to be able to go down that route. So it seems like she's focusing on the retaliation of the smear campaign. If she finds a couple of things from the subpoena, she might go down that route. But doesn't appear that she's got much. I can't wait till, is it Monday we find out that whether she's got anything or the
Well,
amended.
she doesn't have to share I think,
Okay.
any of the results of the subpoenas, but I think it'll take a long time.
Yeah.
So, like, it could be months, I think, before some of this evidence comes in. They don't just respond right away, but we'll have to see. I mean, yeah, there
What
could
do
be a
you think?
settlement.
What do you
I
think?
think, well, part of me, like the super selfish side of me, wants this thing to go to trial. I want to report live from the steps in New York and all of that. But that's just like the gladiator spectator in me. If I was mediating this, I'd be like, I'd want to get them in a room and say, if you don't have these, you better find a way to save, like, tell Blake, like, you better find a way to save your ass right now.
Yeah.
And the best way to do that is have as much grace for the shit you've caused. But if she doesn't admit to it, then that's just not going to happen. So I have no idea, but I tend to agree that it will not, that somebody with a rational mind will come in and put a kibosh to this, whether it's like Ryan Reynolds investors. Like, there's bigger money up there that's like done. Will, like, you might have a case where someone like Sony, with all the money they have, says, settle this one and we'll give you a movie. Just
Yeah.
settle it. Because Sony could literally shoot a movie for $20 million with the intention of never releasing it, keep her happy, and get, you know what I mean? Like, there's so much money that could be lost in bad PR
Yeah.
that is much bigger than what the little things they're fighting over. So
And I
that,
think Hollywood itself will be, please stop. Because the impact it's going to have on future, you know, films and everything is it's going to bring up the costs, because now, there could be a problem with intimacy. It's just so far reaching that I think other people will have to put more and more pressure on more on Ryan Reynolds, maybe, to actually sort this out. I can't see Blake Lively apologizing. I think that's going to be the hardest thing.
yeah. Well, we'll have to see what happens. And please come back anytime. You've got a great YouTube channel. I'll post a link, and also on Instagram. Is there anything else of yours we can promote here?
No, no, that would be amazing. Thank you. I really
Well,
appreciate it.
yeah, thanks for sharing your wisdom on this. We've enjoyed hearing your thoughts. And again, please, open invite. Come back anytime.
Oh, it's been great. And Dave, I have to say, do you know children laugh and are happy or smile approximately 300 times a day? Do you know how much adults do?
How much?
About 20 times.
Wow.
So honestly, what you're doing, just to get an extra laugh in for us adults, is amazing. You're helping us get more oxytocin, endorphins, all the good stuff is actually healing. So
Well,
amazing.
thank you. I mean, hey, I'm doing it for me too. Like, I'd be out here ruminating about, if I wasn't doing this, I'd be on social media complaining about all of my peers getting more work than I do. So
You're doing great. Honestly, it's so helpful just getting a couple of more laughs in for us
oh,
adults who are miserable.
thanks so much. I appreciate it. And come back anytime.
All right. Cheers.